Hello and welcome to episode 107 of the HamCorp Training Manual. In this episode, we build the electric implosion compressor, botmium chemplant casings, a new bacterial vat facility, and of course the Tier 8 rocket, the final conventional rocket. I come bearing very good news. First of all, this is done. Second of all, this is done. Now, I don't know how many quantum anomalies I'm realistically gonna need, so I'll just leave it running for a while. It's not too much of a power drain, so it's okay. But yeah, now I can make bedrockium pretty easily, and I can make new heavy plates pretty easily. So I think, let's start doing a bit of both. So first of all, I need to upgrade to botmium machine casings. These need advanced nitinol. This is made from extracting blocks of advanced nitinol, which we can make in a laser engraver with a quantum anomaly. The anomaly isn't consumed, so that's nice. We also need some other stuff. We need the cinnobite. I've made this before recently. Trinium naquata carbonite. This is a trinium naquata alloy dust plus carbon alloy blast smelt. And the trinium naquata alloy dust is just a mix of naquata and trinium. So this is pretty easy. I need ZPM machine casings. I need botmium plates. Botmium is also an alloy blast smelt with nitinol 60, osmium, thallium, and ruthenium. Now I don't know if I have any thallium, and while I can get it through milling, I think for now I will use this method. The alloy blast smelt with purified zinc, pyrite, sulfuric acid, and carbon. And finally, I need titan steel. Titan steel is also an alloy blast smelt with igneous crystal powder, terra crystal powder, perdicio crystal powder, and tungsten titanium carbide, which sounds like a simple mix of, tungsten carbide and titanium. So now that I have the quantum anomaly, this shouldn't be too difficult. Meanwhile, for the Tier 8 rocket, I first need to make some heavy-duty plates Tier 8. These need heavy-duty plates Tier 7, as well as black plutonium. A lot of black plutonium. And after that, there are only two new parts. So there's the Tier 8 control computer. This uses UV stuff, which is surprising. I would have expected it to use UHV, but it uses UV stuff. So this is pretty easy. And Tier 4 boosters, which is just the Tier 3 boosters from before, surrounded by some of these compressed plates. And now that I don't need TNT anymore, it should be so much faster to get done. First things first, I need to put down this electric implosion compressor. Oh, that was weird. So when I placed this multi-block like this, it didn't form. But then I placed more neutronium here in the center, and then it formed. And it kind of used the neutronium. I don't know what that was. And I discovered that the energy hatches have to go at the bottom center and the top center. Great. And I wanted to put it here where the old implosion compressor was, but it's too tall. And I didn't want to bring it down any layers, so it's just going to be like this, I guess. It's a little goofy, but it doesn't look that bad. Okay, it looks pretty bad. Whatever, that's my problem, not yours. So let's get to imploding. So I have my rocket parts currently crafting. It's going to take forever because there's a lot of blasting that needs to happen. That gives me time to deal with another issue. So in making the botmium cases, I need thallium. And like I said before, thallium is made from carbon dust, sulfuric acid, pyrite ore, all of which are fine, and purified zinc, which is not fine. So I'm going to need quite a bit of thallium, which means I need quite a bit of purified zinc ore. And zinc ore blocks, you cannot get them from meteors, and they don't spawn on any world. The only way to get them is either space mining, which would mean even more wait time, or small ores. That's painful. Luckily, it's only like 288, but it's still painful. The other way to get thallium is from milling. In a vacuum furnace, I need grossular froth, which is made in a flotation cell, which I would have to craft. And that's a whole extra bit of a rabbit hole that I was hoping to put off until after I have like my ore processing stuff, after I start working on my ore processing stuff. But maybe I should just do this now. If I'm going to do it anyway, I may as well do it now. I'm also going to need to set up potassium ethyl xanthate dust, which is a bit gross. It needs ethanol, potassium hydroxide, and also carbon disulfide. These are all okay. It's just gross, you know? And I also need pine oil. But this shouldn't be too bad, actually, because this just needs steam or superheated steam and crushed pine materials. And crushed pine materials I can just get from a tree growth simulator. Besides that, I would also need to make the isomill grinding machine. I think this would be a better investment of my time than like going to the nether and setting up a miner and then waiting and hoping to get enough zinc ore. Because I will be doing milling, so I may as well get started on this. So for now, I will continue working on the rocket, but instead of working on the botmium, I will work on getting thallium, which means it's time to do some milling. I'm looking at the recipes here for the isomill grinding machine and also for the flotation cell regulator, and I don't think there's anything new. It's just a bunch of GT++ compounds, which you've seen before, and that's kind of it. So I will be back once I have these things crafted up. I'm back in the back side of my ore processing building, and I think I'll just set up a quick milling setup here. I'm not going to go too into detail this episode because it's not really the point of the episode, but honestly it's not that complicated. It's basically I get milled ore from the grinding machine or the milling machine. This can cost durability on alumina milling balls. These are easy to make, aniline and alumina. And then with this milled ore, I put it in a flotation cell with potassium methyl xanthate dust and pine oil, and that gets me froth. And then the froth goes into a vacuum furnace, and then I get all of my stuff. Pine oil is a chemplant recipe, and potassium methyl xanthate is also a chemplant recipe. A series of chemplant recipes. I haven't analyzed whether or not this is better than just processing these ores directly. You know, the regular ore processing method. I imagine milling is better, but I don't know by how much and if that's true for every single ore. So I still need to analyze all of that. But for now, I am just going to do the milled grossular so that I can get my thallium for botmium. I've got the grossular froth going, and in the meantime, I'm going to finish off the rocket. I know I kind of glossed over milling, but I'd rather save that for a special like ore processing dedicated episode because I'm planning on redoing this entire thing, so I figured there's kind of no point talking about it right now. Anyway, this quest is done, and I've also read the text box here, and I have access to quite a few new things. Not just new ores, but also new trees and new seaweed. And I'm going to need that basically right now. So I'm going to quickly set up the botmium to process, to craft, and in the meantime, we can get some Tau Ceti E seaweed. Looks like I'm going to need a lot. Just some quick notes about what I'm going to do for thallium. So I need to make potassium ethyl xanthate, but actually it turns out there are two types of ethyl xanthate dusts that are used. One is sodium ethyl xanthate, and one is potassium. It depends on the ore, but for grossular ore, it needs potassium. This needs carbon disulfide, which is fine, needs some coal gas, and it needs potassium hydroxide dust. This is made from potash, which I've so far been electrolyzing, so I need to get more. And that is in turn made from ashes. And it needs hydrated lime, which I get as a byproduct for making acetylene in the Kevlar factory. Besides that, I also need a lot of pine oil. All this pine oil needs crushed pine materials, which I can get from pine wood. There are 3 variants of pine wood. One from forestry, one from Biomes O' Plenty, and one from GT++. I'm just going to do this one because this one is actually craftable. So it's just a chemplant recipe with some distilled water, oak saplings, and genetic mutagen. And genetic mutagen is mob essence and nether stars, and mob essence is just liquid XP in a brewery. So I'm going to get this going. I'm just going to batch craft this thallium, and I'll actually automate everything later on, once I actually have a full ore processing setup. Guys, I've made a crazy discovery. This recipe for genetic mutagen only works in a single block chem reactor. It does not work in the multi-block. Look, nether stars, program circuit 20, 5000 mob essence. I'm even going to click update here. I'll even turn off input separation, turn it on. Nothing happens. It does not work in a multi-block. That's weird. And it makes sense. There's no LCR tab on the top, so it doesn't work. I hope I still have a single block chem reactor in my storage somewhere. Yeah, I'm good. I have also discovered that the milling machine overclocks perfectly. This is 15 seconds at ZPM, but it's 60 seconds at LUV. It doesn't say in the tooltip, and it doesn't say in the quest. That's not good, but now you know. This overclocks perfectly, and I assume this one does too, but I'm not sure. Yep, It is perfect. 120 seconds instead of 480. Nice. That's good to know. I just wish it was stated somewhere. Anyway, I'm going to finish this off and get my botmium going. And in the meantime, we can go to Tau Ceti E. So zooming out all the way, we can see all of the systems we can go to, with the exception of this one. This one, I don't think we can travel to yet. Tier 9. Tau Ceti is this one, to the southwest, and we want to go to Tau Ceti E, which is the only one in its habitable zone. Okay, this is a lot of seaweed. This is a lot of seaweed. So here is a giant ocean, absolutely filled with seaweed. That's pretty nice. Now, I don't know what ores spawn here, and frankly, I don't really care, because at this point, I can pretty much get everything I need from meteors, and I'm about to have the space elevator, so what's the point? That said, this looks beautiful. So, while I'm here, I'm going to gather up an absolute ton of seaweed. I'm just going to fill up my inventory and my backpacks, and then I'm going to take a trip home. I don't know if that's overkill or not, but I know that I'm going to need a lot of this stuff, because a whole stack only gets me 1 seaweed extract, and I imagine I'm going to need tons of seaweed extract. Wait a minute, I didn't get any. I think I need shears, but luckily I have some on me. Alright, that is good to know. I need shears. Shears broke. I have a decent amount of seaweed. It's not a lot, but I think it's enough to get started. Is that a fucking asteroid? What the hell was that? I think it was. It totally is. I'm out of here. I will see you back at the office. Back on Earth, let's continue with the seaweed processing. So, like it says in the quest here, there are 3 ways to make raw biocatalyst medium, which is what I need to proceed. This is the first recipe. It uses tritanium dust, stem cells, unknown crystal shards, and T Ceti E seaweed extract, along with raw growth catalyst medium. I don't want this. I don't want to do this one because tritanium dust is annoying. Instead, I would rather do the second one, which is the second best. It's basically the same recipe. It needs a different culture, and it needs tiny piles of infinity catalyst dust. Infinity catalyst dust is not an issue. However, I am going to need this extra culture, and unfortunately this culture requires biocells already to even make, along with raw biocatalyst medium. So I'm going to have to struggle with this shitty tritanium recipe for quite some time, I think, and only then I can move on to the better one. But once I get this second culture, I can use it for the third and final recipe, which is also the most efficient recipe. This one is very similar to the one before, but it doesn't use unknown crystal shards, and it doesn't use stem cells. Instead, it uses biocells. This means I need more bacterial vats, and I really don't have any space in my chem building, and honestly, this is due for a cleanup at some point. So I think instead, I'm going to find some place to make an expansion, probably like right here, and this can be my bacterial vat location. I'll just have all of my bacterial vats over there. So to get started, I do need this blue petri dish, which is the Derivantor Cellula Evolutionis. And this is made from stem cells and raw growth catalyst medium in a biolab, in a clean room, which I have. So I'm going to get the culture, I'm going to make this building expansion, and then my goal is to get the second culture, so I can stop using tritanium. Botmium casing's done. Though, looks like I don't really need it for some time. I made a quick little box with a glass ceiling. This is where the vats are going to go. I think it's pretty nice. I can picture like long catwalk that goes this way, and I can kind of expand that way with a little bit of a hassle, but it's possible. So I think this is going to look pretty nice. Now I just need to move my vats over, and I noticed that actually my redstone logic has a bit of a flaw in it, because if the machine isn't running, it kind of just pulls all of the fluid out of the output hatch, which is not what I want. So I'm going to have to think about the redstone logic again. So I'll be back once these vats are moved, and also once I have my raw biocatalyst medium. Update on the BioVat situation. It looks pretty cool. I like it. I like it a lot. And I use actual catwalks here. So I think it looks really nice. So I've redone the redstone logic on these. I think this is a bit better. I don't have anything on the controller, so the controller is just always on. What I have instead is on the output hatch. I have a detector cover set to 50%, and a cable goes to the super tank. By the way, did you know you can block share red alloy wires and covered cables? I discovered that today. That's pretty wild. Anyway, the signal goes to a machine controller cover on the super tank, and the super tank has a fluid regulator set to import conditional at 1000 per 10 ticks. And over here, I have a fluid level emitter on the export bus that sends stuff into the radio hatch. This is set to 3,900,000 raw growth catalyst medium in this case. So what happens is this is going to constantly export rods as long as this tank is less than 3.9 mil. And whenever this output hatch goes above 50%, the fluid regulator will pull stuff until it's less than 50%. I think before I had some weird system where these two bits of redstone logic were like interlinked. So I basically ripped that apart. Now I'm waiting for raw biocatalyst medium, and it is insanely slow. This first bucket is going to take hours, but I've just thought of a kind of funny, sneaky way to speed this up. Because it's percentage based, if I use a smaller output hatch, say a ULV output hatch, it should get to the 50% point much quicker. So let's test this out, right? So right now I get 6 liters of biocatalyst medium per iteration. But if I replace this EV output hatch with a ULV one, let's see what it is. Now it's 42, because 40 is now a much larger percentage of the hatch. So this is going to shave off a lot of time. And I think it's a pretty smart way to get to the starting 50%. And I am going to have my biocatalyst medium in no time. Thank you for watching this episode of the HamCorp Training Manual. In the next episode, we will, before anything else, set up the mass fabrication CPU so I can continue working on space elevator parts in the background. After that, we will start work on biocircuits. These circuits are legally alive, and therefore legally are employees of HamCorp. Our employee count, along with our profit margins, is about to skyrocket. See you next time.